Alright, hello class. This is Mr. Strom, and I'm going to show you a few things on how to get started with the Inventor software and using it to help design and finish your little cube blocks that we've started the other day. Anyway, so first time doing this, we'll see how it works out. I hope you guys like it. We'll probably be doing this from now on as kind of a flip lesson type aspect. And the fact that it should be a little easier for you to stop and start and review the techniques needed to run Inventor essentially. And tonight I'm just going to show you a few different things you can look at, and hopefully we'll get you well on your way. So here we go. First off, go ahead and start by opening Inventor 2016, and it's the little orangish gold colored icon that has the eye on it and says Pro underneath it for Inventor. Once you do this, it's going to come up with this screen essentially. You might get a little screen before this that says something about show me or get started. You'll want to click just the get started or I know what I'm doing. That'll be on your right hand side, and you'll want to click that to get into Inventor. As you can see at the top up here, hopefully you can see my cursor. I kind of highlighted my name and I'm logged in here. You don't necessarily have to log in for what we're doing today and tomorrow and the rest of this week on Friday here, but it gives you an indication that I'm logged in for some of the Autodesk 360 features that we won't really utilize. So if you feel the need to get logged in, you may. If not, no big deal. Up here at the top, you see that I am in Autodesk Inventor Professional 2016, and it does say student version. Yours should hopefully say that when you're logged in. The first thing we're going to do, you see there's an interface up here. And I like to refer to this just as your taskbar or task manager. It may look the same, it may look a little different. Before you select one of these parts, assembly, drawing, or presentation, generally this should pop up every time. Excuse me. Today we're just worried about our part. We will essentially make our blocks into an assembly and then a drawing. We won't utilize presentation too much early on, but later in the year in IED you will be able to utilize a presentation feature. You see it's kind of like any other Office software, Microsoft Office software you've used. Even though they're not the same company, they like to keep it roughly the same, your taskbar, so that you know what you're looking at. So up here you have new. You can always click new to get a new sheet, just like in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. You can open anything that you have saved. Projects, you can create, edit, or activate a workspace file that you've created in the past. Those will primarily be the three that we'll use throughout this class. So let's get started. Go ahead and click your new part icon. And it'll take a little while to load here. Reminder is you need to be patient with the software. It is a very good one. It can be frustrating at times because it's free, like I've told you in the past, but just be patient with it and work with it, and I'm here to help you out. So we see our interface has changed here up at the top, our taskbar, and also we have kind of a light gray screen here in the background. A few things to point out. If you look here at the bottom, there is an X, Y, Z plane. You can just see the green Y and the red X there. But if we take a little bar, if you can follow my cursor, I'll try and do it slow. Excuse me, up to this box, and if you grab a corner and drag, you can change the orientation of your view. So now we can see down here in the lower left hand corner that we have our X, Y, and Z planes. This is the Cartesian coordinate system. It's utilized a lot in this program, and it helps us keep us oriented when making our parts. So if we go back up to the right hand corner in this little cube, you see it says top, it says front, it says right, and it says click or drag. So if we just click on the right side, it's going to automatically bring our view to our right side view. And if you look down here on the left, now we can see our Z, our X is the red that's coming right at us, and our Y is the green that's still facing up. So if we want to, we can go through and sequence through some of these buttons. You see if you click these triangles up here on the right again, if you click these triangles, just one click brings you all the way to that next view, next side view. If you click just a little corner, it'll just rotate a quarter turn instead of a full turn or half turn, however you want to look at that. What's helpful is this little home button up here. Every time you click that, it brings you back to an isometric view essentially. You see your top view, your front, and your right side view. And primarily when you're looking at any part that you make, it's nice to see what it looks like from afar. So that's a helpful tool. Also, you'll see over here, just below that on the right, you'll see several different buttons. I strongly suggest you use a mouse when you're going through and doing anything on Inventor. It just has some handy dandy shortcuts, and I can show you those in class. But what this little taskbar is going to help us with, or navigation bar, there's a little glove, and the little glove pans. Also, if you click with just your mouse, you don't necessarily need the pan, but if you click with your mouse, you're able to, if you click the scrolly part of your mouse, you're able to pan. But that's one way to pan also. The one you'll probably use the most, and I like this one, is the zoom all tool that looks like the little magnifying glass. Note there is a little triangle bar below that you can change what this button does. You can create just a zoom, you can create zoom window, you can create zoom select. I love just having that at zoom all. That way it brings you back to when you can see your part. You can see your part in the whole pane. Nothing's cut off by your taskbars or your navigation screens. If you do not have this navigation bar, what happens, sometimes it gets caught up or taken away when you open and close or save something. So if you go up here to your main taskbar, and it has all these little tabs you can click on. If you click under manage, view, I believe. If you click under view and you click user interface, your navigation bar is right here. So that's important. I'll uncheck it, and if you look there on the right side, it's gone. We'll click it, and now it reappears. So that's your navigation bar. Your browser is generally the thing on the left side there. As you can see, that went away. Your browser we're going to utilize a lot, and we're going to talk about what each of these parts are as well. But that's how you get your, if you lose anything, if you lose your view cube, that's part of it too. If you lose anything, generally just go to user interface and you can get it back. Alright, so we're going to go back over here to our sketch tab up top. And the first thing we need to do is we need to sketch our cube. And I can't show you my cube through the video, I don't think. I could try. I'm not sure I can. I'll have a different slide where I'll show you my cube before you get started here. But we're going to start sketching this. What we want to do, if you click this top, the only thing you're ever going to use in here is a 2D sketch. So if you click the little arrow, you can choose between 2D and 3D. But every time you just click the top portion of that button, it's going to give you a 2D sketch to start out with. Now we see these planes that come up, and these are called planes. They're imaginary, so to speak, right now. We haven't drawn anything on them. It's just showing you and correlating to this little plane coordinate Cartesian system down there. It's just referring to that, but invisible planes. So each one you just highlight over. You don't have to click yet. You can see this one says YZ, this one says XY, this one says XZ, and so on. So depending on what part you want to draw first, this might be helpful. And it's hard for me to show you on here, but I can show you in class if you have questions how we should go about starting with this. But we're going to start a 2D sketch. Now let's say I want to start with something that's going to be horizontal. Now I'm going to start with the XY plane. It's one of my more favorite planes that I use, and we just clicked on that XY plane and it brought us. If you notice down here in the left, we're on our XY, our flush, and our Z is coming right at us, and that's fine. And it also says front view up here in the front, or excuse me, top right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to draw. This little yellow dot in the middle is your theoretical 0, 0 point. Now when you're drawing anything in Inventor, I strongly suggest you stay away from placing a point on this 0, 0 mark. It gets to be confusing on what point you're actually grabbing in the future if you need to change something, dimension something, or so forth. So I strongly suggest you don't place anything on this dot. Now it doesn't matter if you're up, below, left, or right of the 0, 0 point, but we're going to go up here on the top, and click rectangle view. Now even though our blocks are cubes, that's still a form of a rectangle, just an equal rectangle of sorts. So we're going to click our rectangle, our top rectangle piece. Now what it gives us is it shows us what coordinates we're in. We're in XY, and it's saying X in inches 0.304, and our Y is 0.496. Not real important right now. I'm just going to click once, and if you drag down, you see that our numbers are changing. Our bottom number is 0.574, and our top number is 0.435. Now we know about our cubes. They're all roughly 3/4 of an inch, and 3/4 of an inch in decimal is 0.75. So what we can do is we can, while that's still lit blue without clicking again, we just clicked once. If we drag it down a little bit, we can hit 0.75, and then if you hit tab, it's going to adjust to our other plane here, and we can change our Y plane to 0.75 as well, because it's a perfect cube. Now if you hit enter after that, it's going to readjust our box so that we look and we're 0.75, 0.75. We're 3/4 of an inch squared. Hopefully you can get this far in your first step. If not, we notice up here on our taskbar that our rectangle is still selected, because we can draw another one if we really need right now, but we'll just start off with one. So once you get this, if it ends up not holding and not saying 0.75 and 0.75, what you have to do now to get off this rectangle is if you just hit escape, it's going to deselect our rectangle up top. Now you can take your cursor and just double click on the dimension, or these are leader lines, the blue lines, the triangles, and you could double click and you could change this if you want, and then just hit the green check or enter, and it'll hold. So if you need to fix your dimensions, that's one way to do it. Now this is a 2D sketch, as I said before, so the biggest thing we need to do now is we need to hit finish sketch, the green check up here on your taskbar. Check that. So now it orients it the way I drew it. And this is our front view, and if you click front, you can see that. You could change whatever direction you want to, but we want to make this a 3D part. So the easiest way to do this is go up here to the top of your task bar and click on 3D model. Now it gives us a plethora of options we can use. We're going to hit extrude, because what we want to do is we want to make this part, we want it to have depth or be 3D. So once we hit extrude, you notice it automatically pops our box out. That's what we want to see. What you can do is you can bring down this little triangle, and it gives us distance. It gives us a lot of different options. All we need right now is just straight distance, because we're not trying to go to a different point or anything of that nature. And what you can do is you can actually have it go towards us. You can switch it to away from you. You can have it split. And we don't really use asymmetric very much, but I would suggest having it go direction one or the other. Doesn't matter which way right now. If you do it direction 2 away from you, you can see the plane that you're coming from a little easier. But we need to change our distance to, you guessed it, 0.75 because it's a perfect cube. So if you type in 0.75 and hit OK, we have our first cube. This is where it comes in handy for you to use the zoom all button, or the home button over here, the magnifying glass. If I click that once, it's going to zoom our block in nice and close so we can see what it was and put it in the center of our screen. This is helpful for when we go to step 2 and we need to create another plane on top of these boxes. What you could do is you could just keep connecting box on box on box, make them all 0.75 as long as you needed, but that's not the quickest way to do it. And I'm trying to make this as painless as possible. So the next easiest thing to do, I would say, is I don't want the front. I want us to keep going back in the Z, negative Z, so to speak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and click a corner and just swirl it around a little so I can click back. Now if I click back, it's going to orient itself, so I'm looking at the back now. I'm going to go up here to the upper left and click 2D sketch again, and I'm just going to trace the outline of this cube. Once I click once, it'll let me select things. So I'm going to go rectangle again at the top, click and drag down because I want it to be the same size. I want it to be 0.75 by 0.75. This way, if you notice it snapped and everything got dark, we know they're both identical to each other and one's not bigger or smaller than the other. The next thing we can do is we can hit, let's go this way. So you could hit finish sketch, but we're actually going to come up here to the upper left hand corner and we're going to hit 3D model right off the bat and hit extrude. Now I'm going to move this view just a little bit so that you can see where we're going here. So I'm just orienting the block so we can see. And we can see we're going off that back face of our first block, and we could just go 0.75 if we wanted to go one block over. Well, I'm making that green cube. If you look at the front of my desk tomorrow, the green cube's what I'm making. So I know the green cube is 3 blocks in length on top. So what I can do is 0.75 plus 0.75 would just be 2 of the blocks. Now let's go ahead and add 2 on at the same time. So instead of having this say 0.75, you can click and you can hit, if you don't know what 0.75 plus 0.75 is, you can just hit 0.75 and hit your plus 0.75 again and hit enter, and it'll automatically add those 2 numbers together. So you don't have to be great at mental math to be able to handle this. It's like Excel where you can type in a formula, a simple formula, and it'll make that work for you. So right now we have our length of our block is equivalent to 3 smaller blocks. So one way to figure that out, you can go up to your taskbar at the top and click on the Tools tab. Now the Tools tab has a distance type ruler over here on the far upper right. This will give you a way to check a face to face if you wanted. So see how this line's selected? We can select that edge and select the opposing edge, and we can get the distance of 2.25. So 0.75 plus 0.75 plus 0.75 is 2.25. So we know that's correct. And the thing about this with measuring is this little ruler, it'll disappear your measurement all the time. We'll show you how to keep those later. How you can type in the measurements so you can see them all the time. But we trust it. We know it's 2.25. So we can hit exit. Next thing I want to do, if you remember the green block and you can see it, we need to get oriented right with ourselves. So if I hit the home button up here in the upper right, it's going to swing it back around. So this would be our front block, and we only have one. We have 3 blocks, or 2 blocks behind it, total of 3 blocks. We need to get on this far other side to draw a sketch. So if we click on the left side, now we can add on that left side the rest of our shape. So if we come up back to the top, we hit sketch, we create a 2D sketch. I'm gonna select that left face. We're gonna create another rectangle on top of it. So I'm gonna make sure, note that there's a little blue check that happens when I get right in the corner. That's what we want to see. I'm gonna drag down. Now we know if we go flush with the bottom, we're gonna be at 0.75. That right dimension says 0.75 once we click to the bottom. That's what we want. Our next step we need to do is change that bottom inch measurement to 0.75. So what we can do is lit blue, you can just type in 0.75 and you can hit enter, and it'll automatically snap it out to 0.75 and 0.75. Most of our work is completed. Next thing we do, you can hit finish sketch, or you can go to 3D model, extrude, whichever you want. I'm going to orient it so you can see again what we're trying to do. So it automatically inputs the last thing you selected, which was 0.75 plus 0.75. We just want 1.75, so go ahead and delete one of those. And that's what we need, because its width is only 2 blocks. So we can hit 0.75 and hit enter. Very good. So with this green shape, there's 2 more blocks underneath these 2 blocks up here on top. So what you could do, and an easy way to do this, would be orient yourself to the bottom of this figure again. And keep in mind you have to kind of keep your bearings when you're moving it all around so you know where your next step needs to be. But I'm going to create a sketch again on this bottom. And select this bottom face. It's going to resituate it for me. Going to hit rectangle again. We're going to click this corner until it's blue. And this time we're going to drag it so we see our bottom dimension says 0.75 because we're equal to that other line. We're going to bring it all the way down so that both of them, one's going to say 1.5 because that's 0.75 plus 0.75, and the other one's going to say 0.75. So we know we're directly under those 2 top blocks. Go ahead and click. And you're going to go to 3D model again and extrude. And I'll orient it so you can see what we're doing. So we might as well take care of, we need a block here and a block here. The reason we're doing this all in one swipe is it's going to be a lot easier than just doing block by block again. So we know our depth or our distance needs to be only 0.75, 1 block deeper than what we have, or thicker than we have. And since we selected this whole face, we don't have to judge the distance anymore because it automatically snapped it the 1.5 inches we needed. And so we're just controlling depth at this point. So you can go ahead and hit OK. And look at that. We have the exact green cube that I have created now as a 3D image. So we'll hit our house again, and you see the reason I drew it on the XY is because this piece directly slides in on the x-axis. If you look down here, if you move just the x-axis over, it would slide into the yellow piece and be laying on top of the red piece down here, and the black piece would also be in there. So that's the reason I oriented it this way, because this is the way it's going to go into my block. Now the best thing to do, I know you guys want to color code these, is if you go up here to the top of your toolbar, you can choose where it says generic. If you click the drop down, this is where you could change what the material is actually made out of. Now if you want to, you could create wood, glass, PVC, most of you know what that is, gold. You can do essentially whatever you want to. If you really just want to make it a wood type, you scroll down and it gives you some wood options. Excuse me, these are actually oak pieces, I believe. So if you want to click wood oak, you could click wood oak, and it shows up with kind of a funky color, but it also shows the textures of oak. Now, I don't really care for that because you're not going to be able to paint them oak. If you choose a color you want, I'll give you some color options. There's going to be dark green or like a hunter green, yellow, a dark blue, red, black, and I'll also have a pink for you with spray paint. So if we want to go up here and we're just going to change this back to generic material, if we can here, alphabetical order, I'm assuming. Yep, so generic. We'll change it back to generic. Let's just change the color. Now default color is going to be this gray. If you click your color box, you can start to choose different colors that you want it to be. So let's say I want it to be that yellow, you can pick gold. Now if you don't see the color you need here, you can always make your color up here in one of these little canvas tools and whatnot. We can try and click this here. So this is a way you can search for your different materials. I'm just going to go back to the default tab and we're going to click just gold here. We'll see how that turns out. That's pretty close to what I have going on. If not, you can also hit this adjust and we can make it a little more yellow. And that made it kind of black. There you go. The downside of this is you have to select all the sides, so hit control, then start clicking and it'll start getting all the sides, but you have to get to the back side, control and click bottom. So it's a little bit of a pain unless you just go with the generic colors, a little easier. So we'll rotate around, make sure we have all the faces, and we do. So if you hit escape again, it'll go back to your other color. Let's try and change that. Find just a yellow instead of a gold. Smooth yellow. There you go, that's the color I wanted. Alright, now that will stay. And we have our color coded. Actually, I should make it green. Let's make it green, since that's what color I was trying to make. Smooth, do we have a smooth green? Smooth forest green, close enough. Alright, so we're going to keep forest green. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit with your browser. Sorry, I had to think of what it's called quick. I'm going to show you something with your browser. Your browser's over here on the left. If you notice, there's little check boxes or little plus symbols. If you hit one of those plus symbols, it's going to show you and highlight without clicking. Just move your cursor over it and it's going to show you what all sketch 1 entails. So it's just that first little cube we did and the extrusion that went with it. If we put our cursor over that, it shows you just that one cube that we extruded. Now if you ever have to go back and change a size on these, you can just right click on extrusion and you can hit either edit sketch or edit feature. So let's say we didn't want to make that one quite 3/4 of an inch. Let's hit edit feature. It's going to go back to just this block when we're initially doing our depth. So if we didn't want it to be 0.75, we want it to be 1. You could delete that. You could hit 1, hit enter, and it's going to have changed that to 1. Now it doesn't look a whole lot different, but if you go back up to inspect or tools, hit distance, and you click this edge to this back edge, you're going to see it's 2.5 now instead of 2.25. So it went up 1/4 of an inch. That's not what we want. So we'll go back to our extrusion again, right click, hit edit feature, and we'll change that back to 3/4 of an inch or 0.75. Hit enter, it'll change it, and then automatically changes everything that correlates with that part. Now if we messed up our sketch, you can go back here to the left, right click on sketch 1, you can hit edit sketch. Now what this is going to do, it's going to bring you all the way back to this sketch. So if it wasn't the depth we had to fix, if it was actually the height or the width, you could go back, right click extrusion 1, open sketch, you can get back to sketch 1, and you can double click on these dimensions and change them if need be. So I'm going to do it just for fun so we can see what happens. So if I change this height here to let's do 2 inches, so 2.0, and hit enter, you see that changed to 2 inches. Now if we hit finish sketch, it's going to change, zoom all, it's going to change our shape quite dramatically. You can check it out. So that's not what we want, but that's an easy way if you decide, oh, I went too far down here and we don't need this gap, but I need a solid brick here. You can manipulate things without having to start over, is what I'm trying to tell you. So let's go ahead and go back to the left to our browser, right click extrusion 1, hit edit sketch. We're going to edit our dimension back to 0.75, hit 0.75, enter, finish sketch, and it'll fix everything. It'll be hunky-dory. So go ahead, if you have any questions, make sure to ask me in class or write them down so I can help you out. But if you have any questions on doing this, I'm more than happy to help you. I want you to go through and recreate your 5 shapes the best that you can, and we'll come back and figure out your little bugs and glitches if need be. So that's a really easy tutorial on how to do your first cube, or excuse me, rather puzzle part to your cube, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.